Crissy.
And I'm Rachel, and we're from the Chattanooga Public Library.
And for today's nature activity, we are going to be making mini biomes. So we're going to go over the supplies you might need and the instructions, and by the end we're going to have a little biome that promotes the water cycle and can live all on its own. Sound good?
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too. So here we go. All right, so the supplies you're going to need today. So the good news is that a lot of these things you can either purchase or you can just go outside and forage for them. So this is a really awesome activity for that. So the first thing that you're going to need is some gravel. So Rachel and I are going to be using aquarium gravel today, but you can also go outside and just get some small pebbles if you want to. The next thing that you're going to need is going to be some substrate or dirt. It's a very fancy word for dirt. That's also something that you can either purchase, like we're using potting soil, or you can go outside and get your hands dirty and get some dirt.
Then, dig it up.
Yep. You'll also need some charcoal. So this is activated charcoal. We have we've got the medium size kind. So it's not powder. We don't want powder. We want a little bigger than that. But you could also, if you happen to have a grill, you could use that charcoal, take a hammer to it, smash it up a little smaller, and that will work. Then you will also need to definitely go outside and harvest some moss. So both Rachel and I went outside of our houses, yes, and harvested our own moss. I have 3 different kinds. Rachel, how many kinds do you have?
I ended up bringing in 3 as well, but my yard is just a moss playground, so it's everywhere.
It is. Right now is the time that moss is growing everywhere. So if you have any like stone or concrete around your house, that's where mine personally grows, outside of my house, but you can also check in the grass. There's moss everywhere. So easy to find. I wore gardening gloves whenever I harvested mine, but you obviously don't have to. So that's all that you absolutely have to have for this. We are also going to be adding some tulle or mesh in ours, and that's just going to kind of help the filtration, but you don't have to have that. And then we also have these tiny little fun things that we're going to be adding to ours. So I purchased these offline, but you can also use shells from a beach trip. You could use sticks. You could create your own. It's up to you. All right, so we have like all of these things that we are going to be putting into our biomes, but we need something to put all of our things into for our biomes. So Rachel and I both have small glass jars. Yes, so they're very tiny and very cute, but you can literally use any type of glass jar. This could be a glass jar from your kitchen that you're recycling. You can go to any sort of craft store and they have plenty of awesome glass jars there. So it's up to you. And then the last thing that you are going to need is going to be a spray bottle or water source of some kind. So I have a garden spritzer and Rachel has a spritzer as well. But if you don't have a spritzer, then you can just use your faucet. All right, so those are all of our supplies. So let's get started. All right, so first off, we are going to go ahead and cut down our mesh. So as I said before, we are using tulle, as in the fabric, but you could also use like mesh from a screened-in porch if you happen to have any of that. And also, this is not a requirement. It's just something kind of good to have. All right, so we're just going to take ours and our jar and kind of, you can either trace around it or you can just kind of eyeball it, but you do want it to be able to fit into your jar. So we're going to go ahead and cut ours down. All right, so we have our mesh cut out. We're gonna kind of put it off to the side for right now. And so we're gonna take our jar and it's time for the first layer. So we are going to start off by putting our gravel or aquarium rocks down at the bottom. So you want this to take up a little less than 1/4 of your jar. You do want it to have a good solid base. Okay, so I have a spoon and I'm just gonna kind of spoon it on in there.
Forbidden cereal.
Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so next, if you do have your mesh, this is gonna be the time to go ahead and put your mesh in there. And then I kind of have some tweezers. You could use a pencil or chopsticks, anything like that to just kind of poke things down.
The end of a paintbrush, which is what I'm going to use.
Brush, yes. I have these tweezers for my terrariums if I have like a glass jar that has a very small opening.
If I ever want to make this one,
yes, you can use
tweezers for it. Yeah.
All right, so we have our mesh in there now. So the next step is going to be adding our charcoal pieces. So you don't want the charcoal layer to be as thick as the rock layer, but you also don't want it to be too thin. You want more than just like one piece of charcoal. And the charcoal is important to our mini biome because it's going to help filter out the impurities in water and really help promote the water cycle.
Yeah. Sort of like if you've ever had like a fish tank with a charcoal filter, or
I think they make like those like sachets
like,
full of charcoal because it helps like clean out like bad smells in the air. So it's kind of like a layered cake right now. Aha.
I can still see my mesh, but that's because I accidentally cut it a bit too big.
Yeah.
Is that too much charcoal?
You what?
Is that too much charcoal?
I think that should be fine. Like I see a chunk of mine that's like too big. It's taking up a lot of space. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that one out. So if you happen to have like any smaller pieces, you could go ahead and do that. And I mean, I can still see the mesh in mine as well.
Okay.
But I'm okay with that. Very, barely visible. And by barely,
yeah, mine's about the same.
okay.
I'm trying to distribute the charcoal.
Yes.
Evenly.
And there is kind of a little bit of artistry that comes into our terrariums. You know, it's all based on how you want it to look. I like for mine at first to kind of stay very cake layery, where you can definitely see the layers. But if you're not as picky as I am, that's okay.
Okay, I think mine is good to go on the charcoal.
Awesome. All right, so our next layer is going to be our dirt. So you want the layer of dirt to be the same as your layer of rocks. So that's just
cool.
A good baseline.
Oh, that's too much dirt.
I kind of like to smush mine down to make it nice and...
Oh, my spoon is too big for the jar.
That's why I got a teaspoon, because I was like, I need it to be very small.
So my dirt has kind of blended with my charcoal layer a lot.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
That is totally okay.
Awesome.
And I think that Oh, there's a small part of my mesh that's still visible, but
Yeah, mine too.
okay. All right. So now is the time for our moss. So I have a really big piece here that I'm going to kind of cut down. And by cut, I mean tear apart. But you do want to have a little bit of a dirt bottom to it. I think that just like helps it incorporate into the dirt that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and just start placing mine. You do want to make sure to like leave a little bit of room at the top. You don't want it to be like your lid to be smushing down on the moss. So this is where the artistry comes in again.
Oh, I'm gonna need teeny tiny pieces of moss for this.
Yeah. And also, like if you have like a bigger glass container at your house, a lot of people like to add other types of plants in their terrariums. So since ours are mini biomes today, I'm just using moss. But if you have like a succulent cutting, you could add that in there. Any small type of like leafy plants, those are good in there as well. But I'm just gonna go with the moss today.
Yeah, I grabbed a couple of those, but I don't think they're gonna fit in this jar. So I'm going to make a bigger one.
Yes.
So that these don't, sit on my desk and die.
Exactly. Whenever I've done terrariums with succulents in them, I've added a little bit of root hormone powder to the end. That's just, and it's easy to buy at, any like outdoor supply. It comes in just like a little container, but that really just activate the roots to take place.
Should it be this close to the top?
Yes, that's fine. So mine's about that close as well.
Okay. I just got scared that it's going to get smushed.
This is what it looks like from up top, which I really like. I've got two different kinds of moss that you can really see the difference in. The second to last part for us is going to be adding our little decorative pieces. So I'm just going to kind of place my little like rat gargoyle.
I love him. Love Rat Baby.
Rat Baby. Love my little rat baby. Then I also have a mushroom, but I think it's going to be too big.
Yeah, a lot of the pieces I picked out are too big for this particular jar. Oh, I love the way this looks. This is so pleasing.
You can't see my little rat baby because of the lighting, but he is definitely right there and very cute. Cute!
Rose, and then I've got the shell as well.
Oh, I love it. That looks so good.
I'm very excited.
You can also add like small twigs, up to you, as I said before. So our very last step, which is very, very important, is going to be taking our spray bottle and spraying our terrarium down. So you want to go ahead and put a little bit on your moss, but you also really want the outside or the inside part of the glass to be spritzed, because that's going to show you like the condensation. It's going to show you the part of the water cycle that we really need to know about. If you see after a while that your terrarium or your biome no longer has condensation on the side, that's when you know that you need to pop the lid open and spritz it down again. So let's go ahead and take ours and just spritz it a bit.
Now I know my problem is I've cut a lot of indoor plants by overwatering them. So how much do I spritz?
So with the times that I've used that spray bottle, I've done about three or four. So you just want to make sure that, your moss is nice and moist and that you see water on the inside, but you don't want to overdo it. And what would be overdoing it would be to fill it so much that you could like see the water in the rocks, because that's going to stay like stagnant. It's going to make it not good inside, not going to promote the water cycle. So don't overwater it. It's better to underwater these than overwater them. All right, so now we take our lid, pop it on, and then you're gonna put it in a window. You don't want it to be in direct sunlight. So usually like succulents and moss terrariums, they don't love direct sunlight because that's gonna dry out the water cycle portion. So indirect sunlight, and that's it, you're done. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the water cycle now that we have our terrariums done. And let's learn about our mini biome.
The water cycle describes how water evaporates from the surface of the earth, rises into the atmosphere, cools, and condenses into rain or snow in the clouds, and then falls back to the surface as precipitation. The water falling on lands collects in rivers and lakes, soil, and porous layers of rock, and much of it flows back into the oceans where it once again evaporates. So how does water get into the atmosphere? Well, there are two main ways this happens. Heat from the sun causes water to evaporate from oceans, lakes, and streams. Evaporation occurs when liquid water on Earth's surface turns into water vapor in our atmosphere. And then the second way is water from plants and trees also enters the atmosphere. This is called transpiration. So when you set your terrarium in the sun, the water inside the terrarium will heat up and turn into water vapor in the air. This is called evaporation. When the water cools back down, it turns back into a liquid. You will see condensation, or water droplets, sticking to the lid of your terrarium. If the drops get too large, they will even roll down the sides of the container, or fall from the lid. This is rain.
All right, Rachel, how did your mini biome turn out?
I'm so pleased. It looks so cute, and I can't wait to see how the moss grows, and I can't wait to track how, the water cycle and make sure it keeps healthy and hydrated in there.
Yes, yes. And these are very resilient little houseplants. We'll call them houseplants. They are terrariums, but they're very resilient. So that's good because I know that I don't always have the greenest of thumbs. So this is a great way to start out. So I'm so excited about how mine turned out as well. And I still have so much of the different supplies left over that I think I'm going to make another one, but with a different container, maybe a larger container. Yeah? Do you think?
Yeah, me too. I've got a ton of moss here and I don't know what to do with it.
It's time to get creative. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And we hope that you make a mini biome yourself. And if you do, please take a picture of it and tag us on Facebook or Instagram. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.